All right, folks, sorry about that. Like I said, my phone went a little bit on the nuts side of the fence, so I am back. For those of you just tuning in that don't know what's going on, is we had a major flash flood event yesterday that happened in Iowa. And flash floods, flooding does happen here. Um, it's not uncommon whatsoever. But what happened last night was basically what I call the biblical proportions type, which is essentially like the finger of God on it. We had 9.2 inches of rain in a very short period of time. Took everybody by surprise. We all knew that there was rain coming. I believe, what was it, yesterday? I mowed the yard, what, roughly about 5:30 in the evening, and just as I finished, it started to sprinkle a little bit. And we had thunderstorms that were popping up off and on. Well, later on that night, I want to say right after 8 o'clock, that's when everything basically busted loose and we started getting really heavy thunderstorms. They had severe thunderstorm warnings out, they had a few tornado warnings out, and then they had some flash flood watches for a good part of the state. Well, there was a lot of moisture in the air, yeah, a lot of moisture. We had dew points that were in the mid 70s, and that translated into, like, 80% relative humidity. That's a lot of water in the air. Well, everything busted loose, and we started getting torrential rains, rainfall like I'd never really seen before. And one reason I'm bringing this up is because a lot of you folks in the firearms community, you're into wanting to make sure that you're prepared for things that could go wrong, and natural disasters and things like that just so happen to be one of them. And a natural disaster could be something like what I have in this painting here, a tornado, but it could easily be flash floods. And thunderstorms, especially severe thunderstorms, give us what? Loss of power, flooding, all kinds of stuff. So it's helpful to know exactly where everything is at and how to be prepared. The rain came down in sheets. I mean, it was the most vicious rain, the highest rainfall rates that I think that I've ever witnessed in my entire life. And that's saying something considering that I've been on the planet for, what, 59 years, and I've seen a lot of weather here in Iowa. Oh, and some of you are probably like, Matt, you look kind of funny. You got on different glasses. Okay, yeah, safety glasses, got on the flannel, and also got on muck boots because my basement is flooded. So muck boots, if you've never seen them before, these are great for hunting and everything else, and just general, slopping around in the mud type of thing. Real handy to have. I use these things for hunting. I use them in the wintertime. And also, I guess, for cleaning the basement. I didn't realize that I had a water geyser field underneath the basement. Literally 1 minute, the basement is dry. And I'm talking about where you all see the videos that I do standing in front of my safe and all that sort of thing. And within 15 minutes, it was flooded. There were literally little geysers coming up from between the cracks, out of every crack in the basement, especially along the sides of the foundation. I mean, they were just shooting up, gurgling, doing the whole 9 yards. That's a lot of hydrostatic pressure that, is under the ground. But when you get over 9 inches of rain in such a short period of time, and our soil was saturated anyway, you're basically up a creek without the proverbial paddle. So thankfully, I had the muck boots and everything else, plus I had my flashlights at hand, and I was ready to go. I started getting stuff up out of the basement probably around 11:30 or 11:45, somewhere in there last night. And at one point when I was there, I heard an explosion. And it was the type of dull explosion that you just know that, it was on the ground, and it also had a seismic signature to it. It shook the house. So I'm in the basement. I feel the earth move when I hear the explosion. I texted my friend Evan. Some of you have probably seen Evan before, and if you've been in part of the live chats and stuff like that, Evan he's my best friend. He's my moderator on the live chats. So I got a hold of Evan and I'm like, dude, I heard an explosion. I'm going to go outside, take a look at it, because I also wanted to make sure that I didn't have the neighbor's tree fall on top of my garage, because that does happen when you're having severe storms with high winds, excessive floods, rain, all that sort of thing. It just loosens everything up, and trees just simply can't take it anymore, and they fall over. We saw a lot of saw a lot of that today. Okay. Hey, this is actually cool. I can actually see some of your comments here. And okay, you notice how I'm tilting my head up like that? That's an automatic reaction, like I got my bifocals on. These are safety glasses, dude. I don't have my bifocals on. What is this? Okay, so anyway, I go outside. I've got my trusty Surefire flashlight, and I'm looking around, talking to the neighbors. It's like I've got a lake um, out back, just basically surrounding my house. I've got a lake. And, the neighbors, their basement was getting flooded. They're hauling stuff out of their basement as fast as they can. And they even had, what we call a sump pump, and it was pumping water out, but, it's still just, it couldn't keep up with it. And as I was outside, I heard more explosions, which sounded to me like they were power transformers. Well, I get a hold of Evan and I told him what was going on. And then Evan reported back to me that the first explosion that had the seismic signature was actually a house blowing up. They had been evacuating, the police department had been evacuating people from low lying areas. And apparently, what they think happened is that the water, as it came into this structure and it flooded the structure, it snuffed out a pilot light. Natural gas then built up inside the structure. It found an ignition source somewhere, and that's when it went boom. And so that structure was a complete loss. Uh, Thankfully, there was nobody in the building. Thankfully, there was nobody there. Nobody got hurt. So, that is a really, really good thing. Okay, and Randy says, saw pics of that duplex that blew up. Yep, that's the one I'm talking about, Randy. Um, that area just got completely taken out, just completely taken out. Now, Walter, you're talking about the 100-year floods. I once lived on a property that was right down by a river, and when I bought it, the river was only about this river was only about 2 feet deep, 3 feet, in some holes where you'd have some channel cats. And, I'd ask the people, well, how often does this flood here in the low 40? Oh, just once every 100 years. Uh-huh. Hadn't lived there a year, got one of those 100-year floods. And then it's like the year after that and the year after that. What I learned was don't plant a garden and don't plant sweet corn down there by the river, because that was bad. So anyway, the duplex blew up, and the thing is, situational awareness is a good thing for you to have, because the pilot light on my water heater is only about this far off of the basement floor. And so there's also a pilot light and an ignition source for a gas sprayer that I have that is about that far off of the floor. So it helps to understand how these things work and to know where to be able to shut off the gas. Just shut it off, to be safe. Especially, having lived out in the country before in numerous occasions, I've used LP gas, which is liquid propane gas. That stuff is real dangerous because that stuff is heavy enough that it will just form a layer in the lowest parts of a house, and just, a static discharge from opening a door can set that crap off. So you have to be real, real careful with LP gas. But know where to shut things off at, when this sort of thing starts happening. And have some kind of preparations available. Know exactly where your flashlights are. Put fresh batteries in them. I actually put batteries in my Phoenix flashlight yesterday morning, and in the Surefire, I did it. Oh, let's see, just a couple of days ago. And Walters, you're talking about the 100-year flood events. We've seen a lot more of those in Iowa, but one of the reasons why is because of, I think that we've modified our weather here. We have denser crop populations than when I was a kid, way denser. And so we get more what's called evapotranspiration with the corn and the soybeans, which puts a lot of moisture into the air. And it's changed the type of storms that we get. We get more high precipitation storms. In 1993, we had a major flood event where all of Des Moines was cut off. We lost our water supply to the city of Des Moines. This setup that we have right now eerily reminds me of 1993 all over again because it's happening around the same time of year. We're getting the same type of setup with, hypersaturated ground. And the city of Ankeny, which is just virtually a northern suburb, they actually had an issue where they had a boil advisory with their water system. And so they had a boil advisory going until I think 4 or 6 o'clock this morning. And, we've had that in Des Moines. In 1993, our municipal water supply got completely overrun. It got overtopped. The pumps got completely taken out. And when they got taken out, the city of Des Moines was without water for 30 days. Des Moines was actually an island for a while, which is another thing that reminded me of it because last night you could not get up Interstate 35, which is north out of the Des Moines Metro. Interstate 80, there was a lane closed eastbound. There were several routes north out of the city of Des Moines and east and also west that were closed because of flash flooding. So once again, it's like a repeat of 1993, which means be prepared. Now, if we were to lose the water supply, and your question is valid. No, we're not really in any danger of that in the city of Des Moines yet because the rivers haven't crested. And since 1993, they built a very large embankment around the Des Moines Waterworks. And so they have floodgates, that sort of thing. In 2008, we had some major flooding. Nothing happened. This is where hopefully, we've learned from our mistakes and they've done adequate preparation for something like that. But should we happen to lose it, I have the ability to filter water. And I've got I've got different water filtration methods. I've got different water purification methods that I can use. And, if in a pinch, I can make my own homemade water filter because, I've been, I was in the Boy Scouts a long time ago and I've been trained how to do that. So knowing how to do this sort of thing helps. It really helps. I cannot ever underscore this. It helps to know how things work and how to fix stuff. And that applies to everything, firearms and, everything else. I am in central Iowa, Jack. I live in the Des Moines metro area. So basically, let's see, what else can I tell you? The basement's been emptied about as much as I can possibly empty my basement. at the moment. So just kind of letting nature take its course. Thankfully, the basement walls have held, and I'm very thankful for that. Once the water recedes, then, what do you got to do? You got to get ventilation going to dry that stuff up. You got to squeegee that stuff and get it, down the drain as quickly as you can. And then you've got to what? You got to sanitize things because mold will grow really, really fast. So you got to get ahead of it because we're in summertime. Dew points are way up there in the mid 70s. And it's been, in the upper 90s during the day with heat indexes of 105. An absolutely perfect environment for mold to grow. So, there you go. There you have it. And that's pretty much what's going on. So be prepared, have flashlights, have batteries, have food, have the ability that when the power goes out that you can still make food. So, just something as simple as a can of Sterno, a Coleman camp stove, stuff like that really really helps because that way you can still prepare food and make sure that you have water available because nobody guarantees when the power is going to come back on. Last night, I think there was about at least 70,000 people in the Des Moines metro that were completely without power. So this stuff does happen. And, unfortunately, you also get looters and a bunch of bad guys out there doing stupid stuff. We did have a lot of rescues going on in the Des Moines area all over the place because of people driving into floodwaters and having to be rescued. The National Weather Service a few years ago came up with a real good saying, turn around, don't drown. Now, you would think the common sense would say, if I have water crossing the road in front of me and I see a current, I probably shouldn't go into it. It doesn't matter how often we get flooded and stuff like that, people still do it. It still happens. Now, it seems to happen more frequently lately, but I think part of that is the disconnect that people have. The rain, the floodwaters that was going on last night had an incredible amount of hydrostatic pressure with it because I took a drive around today to kind of assess, what's going on in the neighborhood and stuff like that. And in Iowa, because we have a full 4 seasons of winter, summer, and everything else, we get this little phenomenon that is called potholes. So we get potholes and they have to be patched with asphalt. I actually saw huge chunks of asphalt that had blown out of the potholes. So if somebody's out on a motorcycle today, let alone a car, you got to be really watching out for potholes because you hit a pothole like the ones that are out there right now, you're going to destroy your front end on your car and you can wreck your motorcycle real easy. You would be amazed at the amount of money that is spent annually for repairs to cars because they hit potholes. Situational awareness tells you that that thing that looks like a hole in front of you probably is a hole. The old saying, if it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck, okay? That happens. And like one viewer said just on a comment there, yeah, you do, Darwin does kick in, and they did have to do a lot of rescues. One rescue that they had to do down on 63rd Street is they've got this big floodgate that they put down. So this floodgate is probably at least 8 to 10 feet tall, and it's lowered down by cables. The floodgate was down. So you're not going to be able to pass your vehicle through the gate. Floodgates down, you have water over the road and the current is flowing over the road. People drove into it anyway and they had to be rescued. I don't know. I just don't know. Sorry folks, but that stuff just happens occasionally. So anyway, I guess the The lesson is be prepared. Be prepared for about anything. And that goes down to, just simple stuff like the muck boots that I got on right now. Because that allows you to move around in water and stuff like that. And the other thing that you got to remember, like, as I'm moving around in my basement and stuff like that, electricity. So that's one other reason for muck boots, not just, regular shoes, where you get wet. Because if you touch something that is live, electrically speaking, you could end up 6 feet under. So, also a good reason, if you have a circuit breaker box, know exactly which breaker turns off which. Mark them. So in an emergency, you can just shut off those outlets that are in your basement or other things. Because better to be safe and be alive and err on the side of caution than to be dead. Trust me. A couple of viewers have asked about my health. Basically, health wise, I would say I'm doing about as good as can be expected. Can't really complain. I'm still here. Um, you always are, after having a heart attack and stuff like that, you're always going to have certain pesky things that are associated with it. And, your body isn't quite like it was before, but it doesn't mean that you give up. So it was just a couple of days ago, I was helping a neighbor actually take down a tree. And I knew what my limits were, but I was able to run a chainsaw. I was able to hang on to a rope and help, guide branches as they're coming down and stuff like that. Made me feel good to be able to do it. Was I sore afterwards? Yes, absolutely. Still walk a lot because walking around really helps. You got to stay mobile. And so, take off, walk for a mile, walk for 2 miles in one fell swoop. Because, with natural disasters like this, where you've got floods and stuff going on, you just never know. And you might have to walk somewhere. And there are a lot of people out there that they can't get down to the end of the block without huffing and puffing. And so get out there, walk, do stuff, please. It's actually good for you. People have asked me if I've changed my diet also, now that I'm thinking about it. I eat a lot of salads now. Um, and I'm not just talking salads that are just strictly lettuce. I'm talking salads that have all kinds of good stuff in there, like sliced bell peppers, radishes, onions, spinach, kale. Oh, let's see, what else? Cucumbers, the baby tomatoes, stuff like that. So, yeah, I've actually developed quite the taste for it. And I like it. And some people are like, yeah, what kind of dressing do you use? Basically, balsamic vinegar and olive oil. I like it. It works. And so I think it's really good for you. Randy says ham, eggs, and cheese in salad. No, I'm sorry, Randy. I don't put those in my salads. So never really quite liked eggs in salad anyway. Cheese, yes. Eggs, no. But do I put cheese in salads today? No, I don't. Okay, what else to bring you up to date on? Um, that's the major things going on. Just trying to monitor the flood situation, see what's happening, uh, and just kind of sort of take it from there. So that's what's up with me. Otherwise, nothing new since the last live broadcast that I've done. So that's pretty much it. And Hopefully, it'll stay dry for a few days and things will dry out. But the biggest thing we got to watch now is we need to watch our reservoirs. We have two reservoirs. One's called Sailorville, the other's called Red Rock. And Sailorville is basically, the last time I looked, about 13.4 feet from hitting the maximum, and then it begins to go over the spillway uncontrolled. And so, you know, when that happens, that's usually bad. That happened in 1993 and it didn't really have a good ending. Randy's like, how deep did it get in the basement? Dude, I really didn't measure it. I was running up and down out of the basement, just carrying stuff right and left because, the moment that I first saw the basement floor covered, that's when I just, sprang into action. I ran upstairs, threw the boots on, and I was after this stuff until what? Well after 1 o'clock, and just working like a fiend, trying to get stuff up out of there because it's just the way that it goes. So anyway, stay safe. Understand the natural disasters can hit anybody at any place at any time, and it doesn't matter. You can be out in the middle of a desert and you can still have a natural disaster because you can, well, this time of year is the monsoon season, usually for the southwestern United States, where there's all kinds of thunderstorms and that. And in the desert, you get rain, water starts flooding everywhere. That's why they have washes. But I know the Southwest has been in a big drought lately, too. So, my thoughts and prayers are for everybody out there. But anyhow, that's what's going on. That's a report from here. And I won't bore you anymore. I've already been yammering for about 30 minutes.